Grand Prairie, Texas is the city that we're featuring today. We're talking affordability, we're talking lifestyle, we're talking real estate, we're talking about it all. So first, we need to understand where in the heck Grand Prairie, Texas even is. Grand Prairie, Texas is in the heart of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. It neighbors Euless, Irving, Dallas, Duncanville, Cedar Hill, Midlothian, Mansfield, and Arlington. So as you can see, it's in the thick of things. And given its location and access to the interstates, it doesn't take that long to get anywhere. So if you're trying to get from Grand Prairie to downtown Fort Worth, it's going to take you 25 minutes. If you're trying to get from Grand Prairie to downtown Dallas, it's going to take you about 15 minutes. And if you're trying to get to the airport from Grand Prairie, that's about 15 minutes as well. So again, given its location, Grand Prairie is a very easy to commute type of city. Now, let's look at how far you can commute within 30 minutes with our how far can you go in 30-minute test. Which this test allows you to see how far you can travel away from Grand Prairie within 30 minutes if you're driving. So as you can see, you can get to South Lake, you can get to just about all Coppell, you can get into Flower Mound and Louisville, but the southern parts. You cover a good amount of Carrollton, you're covering Farmers Branch, you're just touching Richardson, you are covering a good part of Dallas, almost reaching Mesquite over here. You're covering Lancaster, DeSoto, Cedar Hill, Duncanville, getting all the way to Midlothian if you hurry. You're also getting to Mansfield, and of course, you're going to cover everything within Arlington, get into Forest Hill, and the eastern part of Fort Worth, along with Haltom City, North Richland Hills, Colleyville, Bedford, and Euless. So now you know geographically where Grand Prairie, Texas is. I want to welcome you to the go-to real estate channel for the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. So don't forget to hit that like button because that really helps out the channel. All right, so let's get back to Grand Prairie, Texas and learn more about the city because this is what you came for. Grand Prairie is a city located in 3 counties. It's located in Dallas County, Tarrant County, and Ellis County. And of course, this does mean that it's in the heart of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, with a population of around 195,000 residents. And for you history buffs out there, Grand Prairie, as the city that we know of today, was incorporated in 1909. Grand Prairie has a 61.3% owner-occupant housing unit rate, which means that of the housing that's available in Grand Prairie, 61% of the housing is actually occupied by the owner, not a renter. And to give you an idea of the amount of households available, you're looking at about 63,000, with an average of 3.09 persons per household. And when it comes to education, Grand Prairie has a high school graduate or higher percentage of 80%. And 23.9% of the Grand Prairie residents have a bachelor's degree or higher, with an overall median household income of $69,171. And as far as the climate is concerned, your hottest months of the year are going to be in July and August with an average temperature of 96 degrees on the high end and an average temperature of 75 on the low end. Now, if you're looking for the cold side of things, you're looking at December and January being your coldest months, where the average high is going to be 56 degrees and the average low is going to be 36 degrees. Now, if you're somebody that likes living, playing, and working in the same city, these are the top 5 employers in Grand Prairie. You have Grand Prairie ISD with over 4,000 employees. You have Lockheed Martin with over 4,000 employees as well. You have Poly America with over 2,000 employees. You have the city of Grand Prairie with over 1,600. And you have Bell Helicopter with over 1,200 employees as well. Now, I know I just threw a lot of numbers at you, and as a standalone, those numbers may not make sense to you, and that's okay. I want to bring in a resource that is linked down below as well in niche.com. Niche is actually dedicated to ranking cities one versus the other. So you're going to see the ratings that it gives Grand Prairie. The sole A that Niche gave Grand Prairie came in the category of diversity, and the following categories ranked as a B: public schools, housing, good for families, jobs, cost of living, outdoor activities, nightlife, weather, and commute. And the 2 C's that Grand Prairie earned came in the categories of crime and safety and health and fitness. So that gives you a bit of context of what a third party has to say. I want to share with you a bit more context by sharing with you what actual residents are saying. Pretty cozy, a lot of new renovation is happening, and a lot of businesses are coming to it, but overall, it's nice. Another resident says this: I like that Grand Prairie is nice and quiet, and the city really puts effort into keeping the streets and roads clean. Another resident wants you to know this: it's a great area that is growing with various opportunities. I love that more entertainment and neighborhoods are developing in the area. Great place to raise a family. Now, a nearby resident has had this experience. Grand Prairie is a very good city to live in. As a nearby resident, I am always having to travel to and from Grand Prairie. I have noticed many things, and I highly recommend this city for anybody looking to relocate to a city with an affordable lifestyle. And another current resident says, I like that you can experience the country living while in the city. The area is nice and is accessible to major highways and cities. One thing that I would like to see change is toll road policies and costs. And another current resident says, there are multiple layers to Grand Prairie. There are some beautiful areas next to the lake and also some well-lived areas that have history and a different flair of character. The one thing that I love most about Grand Prairie is the melting pot of cultures. Just on my street, there are families from at least 7 different countries and ethnic backgrounds. We love learning from each other and spending time together. The least desirable part of Grand Prairie is sometimes the crime. One more resident says, Grand Prairie is known for being a city full of outdoor activities. My children and I have thoroughly enjoyed the local libraries as well as the new Epic Waters and Epic Center. The city is made up of great communities, diverse and full of friendly people. You can bike with the mayor or grab a cup of coffee with the cop. All public services are inviting, and I've always felt heard and respected. I recommend Grand Prairie as an excellent place to live. And the last resident we'll feature today says that Grand Prairie is an amazing city. It has good choices in restaurants and the community is thriving and diverse. I like how I feel safe in my environment and how people are friendly. What we can improve is our roads and construction sites because it can take a long time for them to get done. Now, when it comes to the reviews, I want to share that I avoid the extremes. I avoid the super negative and I avoid the super positive because from the super negative, it's not constructive. And also from the super positive, they sometimes lead you to believe that the city is way better than it actually is. So the reviews that you saw today are basically middle of the road. Now let's talk about the park situation, because whether you like going yourself, whether you like taking your kids to the park, or you like taking your pets, it matters. So what you're seeing on the screen right now are the major parks in Grand Prairie. This is not the extent of the park situation. This is just some of the bigger ones. So what we like doing on this channel is highlighting some of the more well-known parks so you get a feel of the park situation in Grand Prairie. So we'll start with Mike Lewis Park in North Grand Prairie. So that's Mike Lewis Park. Let's go down south and go to Friendship Park. All right, so that was Friendship Park. Now let's head over to Turner Park. Now, when it comes to schools, I'm going to link a resource down below that's very detailed, that's going to give you a lot more about the academics, the athletics, the everything that you'll want to know about Grand Prairie. What we're exploring today from a school standpoint is where the schools are geographically, because chances are you've probably heard of the school, but don't necessarily know where it's at on the map. We have Grand Prairie High School, Grand Prairie School for the Highly Gifted, Harmony School of Innovation in Grand Prairie, Grand Prairie Collegiate Institute, South Garland Prairie High School, Grand Prairie Fine Arts Academy, Hobbs William Elementary School, Cora Spencer Elementary School, Thurgood Marshall Leadership Academy, Harmony Science Academy, Young Women's Leadership Academy, International Leadership School of Texas, Louise Cabanese Academy of Young Scholars, Stephen F. Austin Elementary School, David Daniels Elementary Academy of Math and Science, Colin Powell Elementary School, William B. Travis World Language Academy, Florence Hill Elementary School, Mike Mosley Elementary School, and Dwight D. Eisenhower Elementary School. All right, so now that we know a little bit more about Grand Prairie, now that we have a little bit of context when it comes to the history, we've looked at parks and we looked at schools, let's talk about real estate, because that absolutely matters. Because whether you like it or not, your housing situation is going to take up a good amount of your budget, regardless if you're renting or if you're a homeowner. All right, so according to Zillow, the typical home value of homes in Grand Prairie is $326,563. Now, this value is seasonally adjusted and only includes the middle price tier of homes. Grand Prairie home values have gone up 28.6% over the past year. And folks, this is not a typo. In fact, you're going to find that both the home value is actually a little bit lower than where it is today, and also the year change is that high. But before we go into what it is currently, I want to share with you the 10-year graph of what property values have done in Grand Prairie. And as you can see, there's been a steady climb all the way to 2021, and then it just hockey sticks upward. Now, again, the reason that we have to talk about home values and real estate in general is because whether you're renting or you're a homeowner, this impacts you. And one of the biggest ways that it impacts you is because of the property taxes in Texas. So what you're seeing on the screen right now are property tax rates. Now, this looks a little bit more confusing than it actually is, so let's walk through it. You have the city of Prairie. That is a rate, that is a property tax that you are going to have to pay regardless of where you're at. So that's 0.66%. Now, depending on the school system that you actually end up in, as you can see, there's several here, you're going to be paying either one of these. You're not paying all of them, you're paying either one. So if you are in Grand Prairie ISD, then you're going to take that. If you're in Mansfield ISD, then you're going to be in that. So you're going to add this plus that in this example. Now, again, another thing is, depending on which county you're in, you're going to add a third rate. And don't worry, it gets much easier. I'm going to link up a calculator down below, and we're going to actually go through this exercise here in 2 seconds. Regardless of that county that you're in, you're going to choose either Dallas or Tarrant or Ellis County. They didn't include it here, but you're going to add this plus one of the school systems plus one of the counties that your property is on. All right, so here is the property tax estimator. This is linked down below so you can check it out on your own time. So we're going to say that we're purchasing a property for $400,000. We're not going to worry about exemptions right now. This is something that you can apply on your own depending on your situation, but we're going to go with the county and school equalization, and we're going to go at Dallas County right here. So here, this is the estimated tax rate that's already been filled in. We're going to say that we're in Grand Prairie because that's the city that we're featuring today. Our ISD, we're going to end up in Grand Prairie ISD for this example. So as you can see, things are starting to add up. We're not going to worry about the special district unless you happen to end up in one, which is typically a mud district, but it's a story for another day. And then the hospital system and college system or network. So you're going to add all of these together. In fact, this calculator will add it all up for us. What you didn't see previously was the hospital and the college taxes, because that was mostly talking about Grand Prairie and the tax system there, but you are going to add all of these together. So you can see that this will add up to something north of 2%. So we're going to calculate, and based off of this, We have how much we're paying to Dallas County, how much we're paying to the city of Grand Prairie, how much we're paying to Grand Prairie ISD, Parkland Hospital, and the Dallas County Community College system. So on a property of $400,000, you can expect to pay $10,631 as an estimated tax. So if you do the math, the property taxes are roughly 2.66%. Now, I know I threw more numbers at you, but bear with me because they're going to be relevant. That tax rate that you just saw is going to be relevant when we start calculating mortgage payment, which we'll get to here very shortly. Now, before we actually get to the mortgage payment, let's back up for a quick second and look at some homes, because I want to show you how much home you can afford with the average price that homes are selling for right now. And the best way of doing that is by logging in directly into the MLS to showcase the homes that are available right now. So one quick note, as you can see, Grand Prairie, Texas has 330 properties available for sale, averaging $416,000. So you can already tell this is actually higher than the Zillow home value price that it gave us, or the average home values from a couple of months ago. So this is real-time information. Now, this will change when you play around with this link as well. It is linked down below so you can check it out, but we're going to go with Grand Prairie, and we're going to only look at single family because I want to give you an idea of what you can purchase for around, let's say, $350,000, which was right around the average price that Zillow gave us, and that current average price that you saw was around $416,000 if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to go from $350,000 to $450,000 so you can see the homes that are available right now. So as you can see, we have 34 homes for sale in that price range. So let's explore even further. So let's go to the north part of Grand Prairie and start checking out some homes. So this is downtown. This looks to be $410,000, 4 beds, 2.5 baths, 2,100 square feet, and 0.1442 acres. All right, so that home is roughly $410,000, 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 2,100 square feet, and 0.14 acres. Let's keep exploring. So this one's for $431,000, 4 beds, 2.5 baths, almost 2,000 square feet, and 0.17 acres. All right, so that home is being listed at $431,000, has 4 beds, 2.5 baths, almost 2,000 square feet, and 0.17 acres. Now let's go a little bit further south. Let's check out what's going on in this neck of the woods. So that is $400,000, that's $375,000, that's $375,000 as well. We might come back to that one. That looks great. $439,000, $415,000, which is coming soon. $356,000. All right, let's go back to this one. So for $375,000, 4 beds, 2 baths, almost 1,600 square feet, and 0.14 acres. right, so as a reminder, that home is $375,000, 4 beds, 2 baths, almost 1,600 square feet, and 0.14 acres. Now, this is relatively the average price point that we're in today. Now, what I want to do is get out of this very competitive area and go a notch above. So we're actually going to go to a higher price point. Now, the pro is that you're not going to have as much competition. The con, so the downside, is that you are going to spend a little bit more. So we're going to bump it up 100,000. So we're going to go above the average to find less competition, but also let's see the type of home that you can purchase with that price. So let's start from the northern part, which, as you can see, there's not really any homes available for that. So that tells you a good amount about that area. And then the homes that are for sale in this price point, they are down here. So this lets us know that these properties up here, they're not selling, or it's letting you know that properties up here don't generally get to that amount, at least today. It may be the case when you actually are searching for this months down the road or years down the road, but as of right now, the homes that are in this price point are right down here. So check out the amount of house that you can buy for $460, $490. That one's a beautiful house. $550, $475, $550, $450, $463, $535, which looks to be like a new build. So let's check out this property. I believe it was actually this one, wasn't it? $490,000. 5 beds, 2.5 baths, almost 3,000 square feet, and 0.18 acres. All right, so that home is being offered at $490,000. It has 5 beds, 2.5 baths, almost 3,000 square feet, and 0.18 acres. So let's drill down into these properties because they were pretty close to each other and we didn't check them out. So let's go into this home. $475,000, 4 beds, 3.5 baths, over 3,100 square feet, and 0.169 acres. All right, so that home, once again, is $475,000, 4 beds, 3.5 baths, over 3,100 square feet, and 0.169 acres. All right, so here's the thing. Chances are that by the time you're watching this video, none of these homes are available for sale right now. So I'm going to leave a link down below with all the homes that are for sale in Grand Prairie so you can check it out. Now, one of the questions that comes up all of the time is, what is my mortgage payment going to be? Well, I may not be able to provide an exact number for you today, but I am able to provide a pretty good estimate. So I'm going to share with you how to calculate that monthly payment on a home in Grand Prairie right now. And for that, we're going to use Bankrate's mortgage calculator. And of course, this is linked down below, so check it out. Now, we've agreed that the average home price is going to vary dependent on whether you're listening to Zillow or if you're actually looking and seeing the homes that are available for now. So for our purposes today, what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to purchase a home around $450,000. That is a realistic price range here in the market in Grand Prairie. So if you're paying less or if you're buying a home that's less, then of course you adjust it on your screen when you're doing this. If you're following along, if you're buying a property for more, then of course you increase it. So on a home that's valued at $450,000, if you're looking to pay 20% down, that looks like $90,000 down payment right now. Now, note that you don't have to put 20% down to purchase a home. In fact, you can purchase a home for as little as 3% down if you do a conventional, as little as 3.5% if you do an FHA loan. So know that you do not need 20%. Now, for our purposes today, I'm actually going to use 20% because I don't want to calculate the PMI. But with that being said, the big thing here is if we were to put 10% up here, that means that we have to pay the PMI, which is private mortgage insurance. And to give you an idea, if we had a 5.42% interest rate today, which is very reasonable in today's market, it could be higher, it could be lower when you're watching this video, but in today's market, this is the rate that we're looking at the moment. If we did 10% up here, we would be required to pay PMI, private mortgage insurance. So basically it's additional interest. So it would range from 0.5 to 1.5%. So if we had this interest rate and we had to pay PMI, your interest rate would actually be 5.9 or 6.9, something like that, right? So that's why I don't want to get too into the weeds, even though I just did, but just giving you a little bit more information about mortgage and the monthly payment and interest rates, PMI, down payments, all that fun stuff. So for our purpose today, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to go with the home price being $450,000, down payment being 20%, our loan term for 30 years, our interest rate, we're going to leave it at that. That's realistic in today's market. We're not going to focus on the zip code right now because that's not going to matter towards our calculation. We're also not going to look at the credit score right now because we already assume that we're going to get a interest rate roughly around this. So this isn't going to impact the interest rate right now. What we do need to call back is a couple of minutes ago, we talked about property taxes. I hope you remember. So the property tax rate that we came up with was 2.66%. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the home value of $450,000 and we're going to pretend that that's what we're going to pay in taxes. Now, let me do this calculation before I forget. We're going to multiply this times 0.266%, which is going to be our property taxes that we have to pay yearly. So that's almost $12,000 in taxes per year. So we're going to divide that by 12, which is going to give us $997.50. That is me not doing this right. We're going to put 997. All right, so roughly we're going to be paying this amount in taxes every single month for a property valued like this. So now just note that with property, the reason that I went with this market rate was because I just wanted to show you what property taxes would look like. Note that if you purchase a property that's $450,000, if you bought a property for $450,000, chances are that the property's assessed value by the county, so the county appraisal district, is actually less. So in the county's eyes, it's going to be less. They're going to say its property's value is assessed at $350,000, $375,000, $400,000. That's why it's important to protest your property taxes so you can get this number lower. I'm actually doing this on the high end. So I'm assuming that the property that you purchase has a much lower, or not even a lower assessed property value through the county's eyes, and also has a homestead exemption, which you saw on a previous couple of minutes ago, or some other exemption that you can apply to it. But the most common one is a homestead exemption. So here I'm being conservative. I know I threw a lot at you within the span of 12 seconds, but just follow along. So just want to give you a bit more information because it's not a mystery on how these monthly payments get created. You're seeing it right here. Now let's go and let's put something realistic for homeowners insurance. It's going to be lower. It's going to be higher. It's going to depend on the age of the home. It's going to depend on you as the insurer. If you've ever submitted any claims before, this is if you're using this as a primary residence or an investment property. The homeowner's insurance, I'm just going to take a reasonable guess of $200 per month. We don't have to worry about PMI because we put at least 20% down in our purchase. And HOAs, we're just going to pretend that this home does not have HOAs. Now, if you do have an HOA, it could be $100, it could be $200. It's just going to depend on the amenities that you get. Now, I know I went super fast, super quick, but I just want to get through this and give you a realistic number when it comes to your monthly payment. If you're going to purchase a home in Grand Prairie, this as well is linked down below. So check out the link down in the description if you want to play around with some numbers. Now they have this additional piece of information at your fingertips. Now, I know I just threw a lot of numbers at you, so my apologies. You didn't come here for a math lesson, but this is valuable information. Property taxes, as you saw, make a huge difference. So that's why we went through the energy of sharing what property values are, the property rates, and all that fun stuff. And now you actually see how it makes sense in your mortgage payment. So with that being said, let's get out of the real estate for one quick second and talk about bigger picture. Let's talk about the cost of living in Grand Prairie, because your housing, that's not going to take up all of your costs. That's not all of your expenses. There are some additional expenses that matter. And some of those expenses you're seeing on the screen right now. So we've already talked about the median home price being actually a little bit higher than that at roughly $400,000, which means that the median rent is actually underreported here as well. So the median rent, you're probably hovering around $1,200 at this point in time. Your energy bill, roughly $175. Your phone bill, roughly $187. Now on the gas, here again, the number is actually outdated because this was taken a couple of months back. The true gas price per gallon is over $4 as I am recording this video. Your loaf of bread is $3.16. Your gallon of milk is $1.84. Your carton of eggs, $1.72. Your bunch of bananas, $3.19. And your hamburger, just over $4. Now, when we look at healthcare, a doctor's visit can run you $112, a dentist visit, $96, an optometrist, $105, an average prescription drug, $446, and a veterinary visit at $53. Now, to give you an idea of how Grand Prairie compares against the national average, the cost of living overall in Grand Prairie is 2% higher than the national average. When it comes to housing, it's just slightly less than the national average by 1%. Your utilities are over by 4%. Now, your groceries are just under the national average by 5%. And the transportation is just under the national average as well by 1%. So at this point, you might be thinking, Jaime, I love Grand Prairie, so let me buy a house there. So if that's you, then I'm going to leave a link down below for us to connect. Now, if you're a homeowner in Grand Prairie, I want your opinion down below, but also feel free to connect if now is the right time to move. But regardless, if you like a lot of the characteristics that Grand Prairie has, but just aren't fully sold on Grand Prairie, look at some other cities that are very comparable to Grand Prairie. One of those happens to be Irving, which we've already covered in this channel. And another city that we've covered as well is Arlington, Texas. So check out those two cities because I think you're going to like them. Now, if there's a city that we haven't covered in this channel, then let us know in the comments section down below so we can feature them. Now, if you're looking to make money on your next real estate transaction, then feel free to use the link down below and let's connect.